Today we're going to be talking about the coronavirus. It's the first time in a long time that politics hasn't dominated the news across the web. And so coronavirus is getting a lot of attention, and it also is the top of mind for a lot of business owners today. They're trying to figure out, well, what do I do? How do I prepare for something like this? And so something like this really creates a great opportunity for anyone that's selling and helping companies implement new technology. So when it comes to the coronavirus, the main thing that's going to be top of mind for a lot of our business owners and prospects is going to be remote workers and enabling them to actually accomplish what they need to do. So a few things that we need to do is we need to consider, well, what types of technologies that I'm selling today can help cater to and help these companies actually accomplish a successful remote work environment. A lot of companies have some types of remote workers, but many do not. And so a lot of times they're not 100% prepared. And so I put together a few questions that we need to be asking the decision makers, which will essentially lead to new sales and opportunities, which will help them prepare for these types of environments. So the main question is we want to make sure that their workforce stays healthy. Because if we can't keep them healthy, they're unable to work in the office or away from the office. And so in order to keep them healthy, and if there is a health scare or if there's a particular city where there's a widespread pandemic, and the coronavirus is just one of many viruses which we can expect in the future. So this is something that's a great wake-up call to prepare us for future outbreaks of different types of diseases. But it's just the reality of the world that we live in, that these types of things are going to repeat themselves. And so creating a remote work environment helps their workforce stay healthy. We also want to make sure that there isn't any type of issues when it comes to security, because once they step outside of the environment, they don't have access to the same level of firewalls. They don't have access to the same level of IT security that they have in the local office. And so these are some of the things that they're going to need to think about. And you're going to want to make sure that you come up with the solutions before you reach out to these prospects in order to understand and help them implement a remote IT security solution. Another question that we need to come up with is how do we make them more productive at home than they are in the office? And so there's different tools that you can consider, monitoring tools, but also software, making sure that everything is up to par to make sure that they have access to everything that they need to have access to. So these are some of the things you're going to want to think about is how are you going to enable these remote workers using the solutions that you sell today. A big area is going to be UCaaS, and so we're going to need to understand what are you using today. Are the employees trained on the different platforms? Do they understand how to do video chats? Do they understand how to collaborate, how to chat? Do they have it installed on the equipment that they have at home or on the laptops? Do they have laptops? Are there any HR laws that they need to consider? So there's a lot of things that we'll talk a little bit later. But a lot of times companies are responsible for paying employees even if they can't show up to the office. And so if they don't have these remote access, they're going to be paying for a lot of employees that aren't going to be working. And so you may want to consider talking to a few different HR companies or HR consultants who may be able to guide you through which verticals and organizations will be most affected about this. But we'll talk more about that later in the call. Also, a lot of times we want to make sure that everything that they need access to is available in the cloud. A lot of times those local applications and files that are sitting on their machines right now may not be accessible if they are unprepared to be working from home. And so some of the applications may be local based beyond just the local workstation. So these are some of the things that you want to help prepare them for now, because chances are there are going to be a lot of companies that are going to be working remotely, which may lead to a good discussion related to virtual desktops, making sure that they have cameras. Maybe they need to upgrade their phone systems to have hand phones that have cameras, or maybe implementing a UCaaS system that has a video chat that has a great app for their phones. Have they backed up their data? We don't necessarily know the the full ramifications of different pandemics and disasters, but this would definitely be considered part of a disaster recovery discussion. Because if their data center providers or the other data service providers for some reason aren't able to show up to work, and maybe they don't have the best disaster recovery plans in place, they may be considering a secondary vendor to be working with, maybe someone in a different country or someone in a different region. But definitely some backup discussions are going to be needed to be discussed along the lines of working with the coronavirus. Now, the companies and industries that are most affected in terms of HR laws are the retail spaces. So if you want to talk to different companies related to the hotel industries, the restaurant industries, any type of retail spaces, these companies have different types of HR laws that are more a little bit stronger in terms of the consequences of not allowing individuals to show up to work. So we've already seen a few hotels that have been shut down because of the coronavirus in different countries, and if that happens, this is where a lot of travelers come to. And so if individuals can't show up to work, and retail is something that depends on local traffic, but there may be something else that they can do from home. But these employees, if they can't show up to work, these companies are still responsible for paying them. And so again, there's a difference, but not all employees fall into this category. There's non-exempt versus exempt employees. The government normally determines who is who. Exempt employees are typically the ones that are starter level employees, and the non-exempt ones are more of the executives. And so the HR department within each company would understand which ones are which, but they are responsible for making sure that these individuals can continue to be productive from home, and layering all these different technologies will definitely help you enable them to do that. And so this is a great opportunity for us to both help companies and help them also prepare for the future. As we've discussed in previous calls, the natural disasters and challenges that companies are facing are increasing every single year. And so this is just another example of why companies need to be prepared today. And the fact that this is dominating the headlines will make it much easier to have conversations with companies about this. And so before you jump on the calls and before you jump on your email, make sure that you have a plan in place, that you understand what you would do for specific companies in order to help them enable their workers to work remotely. If you need some data in terms of company lists in your local market or specific vertical, you can go to ensaple.com/data and download different contact lists based on different criteria. Feel free to use the chat feature on that page if you ever get stuck, but there's a lot of good data points there. You can pull it by zip code, by county, by technology, by vertical. A lot of different areas there to play with. But again, feel free to jump into there, grab some data, and help companies prepare themselves for the epidemic.